I feel like I project better when it's above me.
When it's above you?
Yeah. But that, like, childhood singing stuff I used to sing. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The 10th Life.
Yes, we have discovered the 10th. Oh, God. So weird.
Did you ever sing in the Navy?
I have a CO commendation. I'll have to take a picture when I get home because I really have it. For singing the Star Spangled Banner at a POW MIA ceremony.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
It's a very weird thing to have a CO commendation for, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for stopping by the office today. It's awesome to have you on the show. You know, if you've seen the show, we just kind of chat about what's going on in our lives. So
I'm always a little bit jealous because it's like, oh, my friends, I want to be there.
And now you are.
Yeah.
You get to see how the sausage is made.
Yep.
You know, it's a little smaller than it looks like in the videos, but gets the job done.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I think there's lots of stuff we can talk about. Why don't you, you know, we were just talking about some of, like, I feel like your role in the Ember community so far has been one of bringing, like, your passion projects and your pet projects to the community. So it's not like, you know, you had a job at work that you had to do and you started open sourcing things because of it. It's more like, it always seems like the stuff that I've seen most visible from you has been like, these are just things you care about. And then, you know, somehow you fell in love with Ember and the Ember community. And now you're doing the stuff that you love and care about in Ember. So I would love to just hear about, like, how did you get in touch with Ember?
Yeah.
And we can go from there.
Gosh. I discovered Ember because I was very unhappy working at a startup, actually. I was they like you to work for free in startups. And I'm not, you know, I'm a little bit older and I have a kid and a life. And I'm just like, yeah, you can pay me for my time now. That's the thing you can do. So it seemed like the rational move to go back to enterprise in Chicago. And in this particular instance, JPMorgan was hiring and looking for somebody who had the things the team was missing. Somebody who knew HTML and CSS really well and could help us dive into those layers of accessibility that you're going to need for a banking application. So I joined and they were like, can you JavaScript? And I was like, not really, but I can figure it out. It's fine. And that's how I got introduced to Ember, and it's just been amazing because it's just all these useful things. They're exactly like, I go to reach for them and they're there. And 99% of the time, I wonder if Ember does this. The answer has been yes. The 1% was accessibility. It didn't really have that good, solid, here's how you make things accessible. So I was like, oh, I could do this though. And I got really excited because I'm one of those people that, like, I get so excited when I know something. I was like, oh, I know that. I can totally help you right now. I'm so excited. And it's just been like a roller coaster ever since.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I always like hearing folks' perspectives who are getting into Ember more in the last year or 2 or 3, because when I got in, just everything was different. Not only about Ember, but just about JavaScript frameworks. The JavaScript ecosystem is just completely different.
I remember reading in Smashing Magazine or Web Design Magazine, one of those magazines, was like, well, Ember's not very good for mobile. And I just sort of picked Angular to learn first because of that, because it said that in the magazine. I was like, well, I'm mobile first person, so I need that to be a thing.
Right.
I have since wondered if I should write an article for that magazine. Hey, let's revisit this.
Yeah. You were wrong.
Yeah, you were very wrong. The community, though, the Ember community really is what kept me here.
So I wanted to ask you about that as well, because I remember you saying, you said something very powerful. You basically said Ember was one of the first times in all your years of being in tech that
Yeah.
you felt like
welcome. Yeah.
That's a pretty astonishing thing.
Yeah.
It's something that it's the kind of thing that's so easy to get lost in these checklist comparison blog post articles about the framework of the month.
Yeah.
That's another level.
So I came from a crypto background, and I decided, get involved. I'm really excited about this. I'm really passionate about it. And I walked into like a meetup, and it was a room full of old white guys.
I just already know where this is going.
One of them looked at me and said, "Are you in the right room, sweetheart?" And every other experience has been some variation of that.
Yeah.
And Ember was the first place where someone was like, "We're glad you're here." And I was like, "Oh, wait, what? Really?" And I didn't have to be apologetic for like existing, I felt like. And that was really important to me. And then I felt like I could also empower other people to feel included.
I mean,
so
you've done that. Like, I think that's really cool that was a goal, because like that's part of your visibility in the community.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful to Leia for kind of helping me see that. Like, you're here and you've been doing this a long time and you've kind of survived, and now you can thrive, and now you can show other people, other women specifically too, you could actually exist here and make a long career of this and not leave the field.
Right.
And that's, once I really got that, I think it really clicked for me. And then I was willing to sort of be that person.
Right.
Because this is not really my natural self, I don't think.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean by that?
I kind of learned to be a lot more outgoing and extrovert and talk to people. It typically, like when I do something like this, I'll be inside for like a week, just like recovering because people.
Because people.
Yeah, just because people.
Yeah, I could relate. I mean, especially after like a big conference, it's I just want to go home.
Oh my gosh. It took me like a month to recover from EmberCamp. It was so great seeing everybody, but I wanted to talk in depth to everyone and really talk.
Yeah.
But those kind of really in-depth conversations can just be so emotionally draining that you just feel tired after. So
yeah, that's really cool though. I especially like that, we talk a lot about how, again, the JavaScript community has changed a lot since Ember came out, but teams, companies, individuals are continuing to choose Ember in spite of a lot of really great alternatives. And one of the questions is why? Why do people continue to see Ember? What's its unique kind of value proposition? And I think you hit on one of those, which is, Ember's been around for 6 years, and I would make a bet it's going to be around for another 6 years. And that means that you can feel good investing in the long term. It's not a short term game, right? If you're going to do something like, think, how can we make an accessibility layer default for all Ember developers? That's going to be an investment, but it's going to be something that's going to pay off, and it's not going to be like, oh, and we're all gone, right?
I feel like this is really the one I like, kind of thing. So like, if I have to do this through sheer force of will, I will, because this is the one. So you've got me for like at least another 20 years.
There you go. That's great. That's great to hear.
So we can bank on that.
Nice.
I'll make that happen.
Nice. And that is kind of like the Ember's always had to be more scrappy because we don't have a Facebook or a Google behind us. Yeah,
I think so. But I like that about Ember.
Oh, absolutely.
I really like that about Ember. It's kind of a two-headed beast, I think.
Right.
Because you have to have enough passion and enough drive to own a project, to take it on, and like, I'm going to be the one who champions this. But you also have to be egoless enough to let it go at a moment's notice. Oh, that's not the direction Ember wants to go in. I need to reset my expectations. I need to empower someone else to take this further.
Yes.
Homepage is a great example of that. Like, I'd been working on this for a while, but then when you and Ryan came along, at first I was like, guys, I've been working on this for a while. But then I realized, wait, they have so much energy for this, and they've got the right tool set. They're going to be able to do this so much better. And then just letting it go and helping you guys feel empowered to, like, not that you needed my help or anything, but those types of things happen, I think, in little tiny chunks all the time.
Yep.
And it's great because we get to practice kind of that inclusion that we preach.
It's hard though. I mean, it really is hard. And I can relate, you know, even to when I first started open sourcing little projects, you know, different libraries, you know, you start to form this idea of the end state of how you want this layer of the programming model to work, or this part of the ecosystem, or the way these things should look. And the reality is, if you do everything yourself, you're only going to get 2x done. And if you let everyone else, out of the 100 things that need to be done, you're going to be do two of them. And the reality is, if you are able to participate in like a vision.
Yes. I feel empowered in Ember to help create community. And that's the thing, like good ideas. How could we how can we encourage, how can we help the growth happen for this person's like passion?
Right.
That's
foster
neat.
And nurture it.
Yeah. And it's kind of neat because I used to be really stuck in this, I want to be the one who does it.
Right.
And I really transitioned into more of this, sometimes I want to be the person who does it, and that's okay. But what if I could clone myself?
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny that you say that, because we talk about that a lot. And kind of what I was saying before is like, you can only do one or two things, and then you realize if you're able to participate in like a vision that's shared, and sometimes that's going to be communicating your own vision and getting other people on board with what you see. And it's tempting for us, I think, as technologists, because we're used to we want to get something done. We know how to learn new things and just get our hands dirty and just do it. And I think the hardest thing, you know, I can definitely say for myself, has been learning how to figure out how to make copies of yourself by getting your hands away from the keyboard.
Yes.
And communicating. Right. And that often means letting things go. Like you were saying, like I have a specific thing for how I want this to look or act or behave, and someone else is going to help me carry this through, but it's not going to be exactly what I had in mind. Yeah. Or maybe it is, but I have to learn how to get there in a different way than just doing it myself. Right. And you're really teaching people to fish. Yeah. That's the thing, is that you're really cultivating them and guiding them to get there. It's really kind of funny because I see so many parallels between my life as a programmer and my life as a mother. My favorite book for parenting is How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. Ooh, I love that title. Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel it also has like direct parallels to my life as an engineer. How to talk so other engineers will listen and listen so other engineers will talk. Right. And both of those things have become vitally important in my life. Yeah. I'm really learning like the communication skills, the right words to say, how to say them. And I don't want to pander too much because I'm really just too old to be tone policed right now. Right. Like I'm just like, no, that's not going to happen anymore in my life. But there is a way to kind of bring everybody on board in such a way that helps them get there in a way that they need. And again, it comes back to being inclusive. Like, does this really matter at the end of the day if you let go of this tiny detail? Especially if the return is somebody else feels welcome, somebody else wants to get involved, and then you've multiplied yourself. Yep. That's great. Yeah. It's hard, but it's great. And it's also so worth it. So worth it. And I also think people in your position who are in leadership roles in the community, like, we're not a company, but we have an organizational structure. We do. And people in certain positions hold more weight and their actions carry more weight. And so I think in a community like Ember's that doesn't have a corporate overlord that is kind of calling the shots. None of us are the CEO, even though we'd like to be sometimes. For you to be able to lead by example, that's going to be the way, you set the tone. And so when you do things like that, you are setting an example for everybody in the community. And so when someone needs help or they're trying to get something done, hopefully they're seeing your example, other people's examples, and saying, I don't have to just feel like kind of a rock star and do it myself. Right. It's actually going to have a way more bigger impact if I can cultivate other people and around my vision and build something that's going to last beyond myself. Because that's I think that's such a core part of Ember. how's Ember lasted for 6 years, and through like, the core leadership has been the same, but there's been a lot of people who have left and people who have come in terms of like the core leadership roles, but like, and yet the community persists on and like develops on.
Right.
And those are the hard problems. Like those are so much harder than what should the API be for this function call.
Right.
But I think we have a lot of good examples of it in Ember leadership, and it's tough, but it's worth it, like you said.
Yeah, because there's always finding that good balance too. Because I really believe in practice servant leadership. I wouldn't do anything, or wouldn't ask anyone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. Period. It's not going to happen. But I just think that kind of leadership is really important, and finding the balance to know when to say yes or no. Because leadership isn't just, especially in open source, there's so many of us with so many ideas and so many backgrounds and so many like goals, how we think Ember should be, like you were saying. Sometimes we have to figure out the best way to redirect energy. I don't necessarily want to have to go to no all the time. I'm really doing this thing lately where I'm focusing on positive speech. I really don't want to focus, I'm doing it right now. I really want to focus more on the positive things and not reach for those negative words. I want to reach for the positive words instead.
That's good. I think that's that's probably good for me to hear, because I definitely feel like in the past I've stretched myself too thin. So I'm at a point now where I'm trying to be like ruthless in terms of what I take on. And that means if there's something that's not, what's the phrase? If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Yes.
And so there's something I like about that. But it's also like, again, when you're working in an environment that's composed of volunteers, basically, someone's coming at you with momentum. Instead of just hitting them with a brick wall, like you said, maybe you can redirect the momentum into something that's going to be valuable instead of just saying no dice, know?
And we've got some great projects going on in the learning team right now to help folks get there. We've had this idea for a while, like the help wanted kind of section, because we have all these different Ember repositories. And it took me like a good 6 to 12 months to figure out like, where can I actually contribute? Where is everything? And now I know it, and now I have the curse of knowledge. But I'm really trying to organize it in such a way, and the whole learning team is engaged in this process. How do we organize this in such a way that other people can contribute without having to know the secret magic? So we've almost got the process there. We have people actively working on the app. We have other people working on the website. We have the Ember Styleguide and the Ember Times. So like the learning team is just like taking off. We're just like, no, we're just going to do this now. And it's such a great energy, and it's such a great team to be on. And just seeing everyone just excited to like enhance what's already there. And that's really what we're doing. We're not doing anything revolutionary. We're just supporting it in the best way possible. Well, it's been so much fun.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that momentum came from your personality, bringing it in and just saying, all right, we're ready to ship. Let's go. Let's move. So I think it's been fun to see, the newer folks on the team like you, like Jen.
Oh, Jen. She's fantastic.
Yeah, just killing it.
I think she's probably done more than me because she will really dive in. Like she dove into the guides. Yeah. And like just every time I look, she was asking the other day, people aren't contributing to the guides lately. Like, should we be worried? And I went and looked. I was like, these are phenomenal. I don't think there's anything. Maybe there's a few things here or there, but you've really done an amazing job whipping these into shape and updating them. And oh my gosh, it's so fantastic.
That's great. Yeah. We just did the survey for the homepage. Actually, it's still out right now. And I was just glancing at the results. And documentation is really high on why people choose and love Ember. So it's good to know, Cool. Do you want to talk about some of your other pet projects, maybe? Just things that are kind of top of mind, like you've been working on?
I'm really focused on the native accessibility story for Ember. I think there's a lot of good things that we could do. Some guardrails we could maybe optionally, people could opt into maybe, or we could make them the default if we chose. I would say a modal, but I don't really mean a modal. I kind of mean anything that comes up next and is on top.
Right. So what do you mean by native?
A toast. Well, we know what the behavior is going to be. Mm-hmm. We know that something will come on top of your browser window. Mm-hmm. A little notification or whatever you want to call it in the world of design.
Right.
We know that a screen reader user or someone with assistive technology needs to have everything else disabled until they've interacted with whatever the thing that's come up is. Maybe we could take care of that in a native way in Ember. We know that it's there.
Built in.
Yeah.
Batteries included style.
It's possible.
Yep.
Now, I know we're really working on svelte builds, but maybe it could be something we opt into at first and try it out and see how the community responds to it.
Yep, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you were talking at lunch just about the idea that, now we have this kind of more well-established pattern with like these like renderless components. Mm-hmm. And so you actually could, whereas if you go back 6 or 5 years ago, it might have been harder to think about how can we provide something like a select or a modal that everybody would use.
Right.
But now if we had this kind of native modal or native notion of a stack, rendering something on top of a stack and having it take a place and take focus, but you let me, the application developer, have complete control over the UI, now you're really talking, right? Because all the stuff that you're talking about is taken care of for me and it's default, and I don't even get to make my thing inaccessible because I'm just using it. And I want to use it because it makes my life easier anyways.
Yep.
So that's a beautiful thing.
I want to not care like where you position it or what color it is or what actions are inside of it. Like, I don't care about any of that.
Right.
I just want to trap the focus and make everything else, you can't tab to it.
Right. And and like you mentioned in your EmberCamp talk, those are things that get left to the end and maybe not done at all. But those are things that even if you don't have accessibility in this kind of strict sense of accessibility at the fore of your mind, you're thinking about the non-visually impaired users when you're building this. So you're just thinking about how to make it work. But the thing is, if you add that accessibility layer, it makes it even better for the non-impaired users, because how many times have we been on a site and you have a modal up, but you're interacting with elements behind it? Like, it should have the focus, even if you're using a mouse and your eyes, So if everyone had that. How many times
have I stopped shopping?
Right.
Because I can't use your site to buy what I'm trying to buy because I'm on my phone. Like, you just didn't think about all your users.
Right.
And I don't like feeling excluded. And I'm sure people who have to use assistive technology are tired of feeling left out of the web, because we're leaving them out of knowledge too, which would kind of suck if it was me. Like, I'd get kind of upset maybe. And and maybe we don't have to go there so much, but I don't know, it's something to think about. Like, we have enough room to grow our kindness. We have enough room to grow how we think about the world around us and how we interact with it, and that other people need to use it too.
Right.
So I just think, I don't know, it's been a great place to explore.
Yeah.
I've been going through each success criteria in the ARIA spec one by one, looking at each thing. Could we implement this in Ember?
Natively.
Is there a potential native story here? I would say some of this stuff is just it depends, right? And there's 1,000 ways to make it one different thing accessible. Which one are you going to use? Mm-hmm. But as I started looking through the techniques, I started noticing, well, we're probably not going to use Flash anymore, so we could probably cross that potential solution off the list. And that looks like what we used to use. Remember when we used to nest tables and that was layout? And they were all caps, Oh, gosh.
We've come a long way.
I know. Just thinking about that. Netscape days, right?
Yeah.
We could probably cross off some of those older. That's not modern web, right? And
you don't have to support it because it's not techniques that people are using anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
So if we were to just focus on what's modern web development doing, probably better for Ember anyway.
Right. Things like modals, things like selects.
Yes, exactly.
Selects are still hard. Like,
right.
That's the thing. If there was a native select that made it easy to style it, and it just happened to also be accessible, like I would, every Ember developer would use that because it would make their life easier.
Right. Every chance I get, I'm bugging people who make browsers. Like, can you just make it so I can make the select like
use the native one but style it?
Yes.
Right. So I don't have to go around the native
I need better
stuff.
line height
Yeah.
for options.
Yeah,
I need
know.
to be able to style options.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I should get to tell you what I want to use for the drop-down caret.
Mm-hmm.
I should get to style a checkbox so I don't have to use like image positioning or hide the input.
And those are the things, those desires are the things that make people reach for non-native solutions, which is what breaks all sorts of things, including accessibility. So that's why you want the APIs there. So
I really do. But in the meantime, why don't we just make really strong patterns?
Yeah, in Ember.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally on board with you.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about like what we love about Ember, and one of them is just the abstractions. Like I don't want to have to do all this plumbing, and like I totally, I think that continues to be and should continue to be part of Ember's blood, in the sense that if you are wanting to get a new framework to just tinker and just kind of just like move all these little things together and experiment, and I think wire up all these low-level libraries together in your own way, so you can really, I get that desire and I've had it before, but I think there's a trade-off between that and being able to provide high-level abstractions that let people avoid all that stuff. And so I think Ember, again, one of the things that I love about Ember is the focus on how can we make the best abstractions that most of us can share, so that we can avoid the most amount of what's underneath. I haven't run like an npm command. I can't remember when. I use Ember serve and Ember test and Ember new. I don't have to run npm run whatever. And I know how to use those things.
Right. And
it's not that Ember doesn't use those things, right? Ember does use those things, but it also did a really crack job at providing a few of the 95% most commonly used things, so that we don't have to do it. And in the same way, like what you're talking about with like native selects and modals and stuff, you could do the same thing there. Like what else does 95% of every Ember developer do that we can just do for them?
Exactly. And I think that's going to be, that's been the really fun part of like thinking through these things. Something nobody solved yet, an accessible, performant data grid. Data grids are hard.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So our team at the bank has been we've spent, I would say, I don't know, 2.5 years now trying to perfect the data grid. And I'm starting to see that the solution isn't necessarily the data grid in itself. I think we get really wrapped up in performance and in engineering, and we forget, well, why are you trying to nest 4 levels of grid? Maybe, just a thought here, maybe we need to develop some complex workflows that help you filter that data down first to get the data you're really trying to get to in the first place, so you don't have to expand all those things.
Interesting. That reminds me of like the data viz crowd.
Yeah.
They have this saying where it's because a lot of this would come up when I was doing more like data visualization stuff with D3 and met a lot of the folks in the like the journalism space who are doing that stuff. And it's like, oh, I have this idea for a great article, and but like I need to visualize 3 million cities, and they all need to be SVG dots, and like that's a limitation of the browser. Like I can't do that performantly. But then the more experienced folks would say, to visualize big data, you have to first make it small data. And the idea there is like 3 million dots is not going to be useful to a human being.
Right.
And a table with 5,000 rows isn't either.
Right.
Because a person can't read 5,000 rows at once. Usually what you're saying is like people reach for, just render 5,000 rows because what I want is in there. But maybe if you had a better search or filtering capability, you wouldn't need to. You only ever render 10 rows at a time?
I think that's a really our max is maybe 50.
Yeah.
And even then we're kind of pushing it.
Right.
Like because we have clients who are like, I value the 50 rows, so I'll wait the 15, 20 seconds for it to render.
Right.
But I'm thinking, oh God, that's way too long. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about those kind of complexities and how can we better empower JavaScript engineers who are using Ember to reach for the better pattern.
That's great. I really love that. It reminds me of also Luke W.,
Yes.
Who's talking about select drop down as UI selects as a UI element of last resort or something like that. Drop downs are a UI element of last resort because there's so often where you have a big list and people just throw drop downs everywhere. But even something as simple as you're booking a trip on Kayak and you're buying a flight, let's say, and there's a selector for how many people are flying.
Yes.
And the naive approach might be like, oh, well, it's a list of numbers. So like, let's use a select. And then you have to like click, choose how many people. And you like scroll. And he's like, why don't you just start it at like the average is 2. So you just start it on 2. And then you have little clickers on either side. You can just do 3, 4, 5. No more select.
Right.
No more dealing with how do I style the options and how does it look? Because it's it's like you're saying, it's a pattern. So that to me, that's so cool because that really fits with Ember. Like, Ember should have answers for those things. Like Ember should be prescriptive about those things. Like because again, you know, the number 1 response in the homepage survey result was clear best practices. That was the number 1 thing why people use and love Ember and would continue to use it for their next app. So if you're saying, look, I'm having trouble building this, I have 1,000 rows I need rendered in a table. We should have an answer for you that says, here are some patterns for alternative UIs that would be a better way to display this. Yeah. And I would love for that to be like official Ember docs, you know?
I think we could get them maybe to like the closest to official Ember docs. Like we highly, strongly recommend. Like, and I don't even want to say best practice. Like I've cut that standard practice.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you saying that because
we're not shooting for the stars. We're just going to the moon, though.
It's funny because we've had that experience with some of the teams we've consulted with, where it's like we don't have time for best practices. Like, you know,
I have heard that in meetings, and that's when it clicked. Like, I really need to up my game here.
Right.
I'm trying to get to best practice, so I'm going to go with it's standard.
It's standard,
though.
Yeah.
Like
you don't want to be doing non-standard things, do you?
I also don't want to be like embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm thinking about our code base. It's like, oh, don't ask me what I do. Don't ask me what I do. But then, of course, we all have those areas, right? We all have those
of course.
Code that we've worked on that, like, we hope never sees the light of day.
That's cool. Nice. That sounds like that's really cool. I like all the stuff that you were just talking about because you're working at a level of the ecosystem and the community that's very top level, very front facing, I guess is kind of the word I'm looking for, where what you're doing is going to have a big impact on basically everyone who uses Ember because they're going to see it, they're going to interact with it. Whereas, you know, a lot of times there's a lot of important work going on under the hood. Yeah. But a lot of times we don't see that work. Maybe it's benefiting us because our build times are faster, or maybe some of it doesn't make it to us because we don't know it's there and we don't use it because we don't know it's there. You know, I think it seems like to me your focus is whether it's accessibility or making easier UI patterns for Ember developers to use. It's stuff that's going to have a big impact on the everyday Ember developer, which is like, I think that's really exciting.
I think so too. I think helping people most of us have forms in our lives. Like most of our apps have forms in them, right?
You're preaching to my heart right now.
Right. I mean, how many times have you built a form? And it's like, I don't want to build forms anymore. I want to solve more interesting problems right now.
I'm telling you, not enough people are working on this in Ember. Like, I love the Glimmer VM. Yeah. It's an amazing thing. Yeah. Application developers need help building forms and tables. They do. Seriously, that's like,
yes, you know? Yes. So that's my goal, and I'm hoping that the Ember Styleguide project really becomes a place where Ember developers, or any developer really, or any designer, could just come look at these components. I want to create a version of them that's like completely unstyled. They're semantic. They're functionally accessible. We tell you how they put them together.
Similar to work that you've already done this work.
Yes, that's right.
In your career.
That's right.
And so you're applying these lessons to
a more, I think, universal, or perhaps maybe a bit perfected, like lessons learned as I grow.
It's always fun to be able to have a redo.
It is, and it's really fun to do it as a passion project because then you're not stressed about it. You're willing to invite other people to the experience. I've kind of refactored a few bits of Ember Styleguide already, like from code people have submitted, just to enhance them a little bit, make them a little more friendlier.
Do you have like, for folks who aren't aware about it, like a 1 or 2 sentence description of what Ember Styleguide is?
Sure. So we're literally building a UI library or add-on that is components that make up the Ember website. So right now it's built in Ruby and Middleman. We'd like to change it to an Ember app. We thought this would be a good opportunity to also
componentize it.
Yeah, because components are easy.
Yeah. So is that so right now the Ember homepage, and yeah, we're going to be working on this together over the coming months. The Ember homepage is a Middleman site. And what about the Ember guides that Chris has been working on? Those are now an Ember app?
They are now an Ember app.
Okay. Are they using components from Ember Styleguide? Or will they be?
They will be.
That's the
goal.
I
think the nav bar right now, but we're even refactoring that. We kind of used Bootstrap to get the MVP out there. And that's been a great help. But we've also said, well, we'd really like to use Flexbox or CSS Grid. It's time to take the web forward kind of ideas.
Right.
But for an MVP that I can get out tomorrow, right? I've been using Bootstrap since 2013 when it went from Bootstrap 2 to Bootstrap 3. Yeah. And I can write it in my sleep practically. You know?
Yeah, it's very, I mean, it's super useful. Yeah. Super useful.
But now, like, let's ship the MVP and then let's iterate and make that even better.
Right. And then also the idea is, like you were saying, like the actual infrastructure that makes up all of the learning team projects is a lot. There's a lot that is there, and so even though the guides are there, there's other projects that would need to share this. And ideally, you know, you can make a new Ember app that's going to document or describe some part of the system of the ecosystem, but it's going to be using the shared components, right?
Exactly, which will give us consistent branding. It will give us all of the awesome, easy stuff that we love about Ember. And I'm so excited. And we've had a really great response. Like, people are actually joining in that I don't know. They're just in the community, and I just haven't met them yet. And I get to meet them in a PR because we have a really great list of issues.
Nice.
And they can, with the patterns, what is expected. I've even used my little Remarkable tablet to like draw up sketches of what I'd like it to look like when it's finished. And
that's cool. That's an example of cloning yourself.
Yes, exactly. And it's maybe not the funnest part, like the sitting down and writing the issues.
Right, because you would rather just
do it.
Pause time world, so I can just I relate to that so much. But you know, we've even been working with a video editor. Yeah. And I've gotten to the point where video editing almost feels like coding for me sometimes. I use the keyboard shortcuts. Yeah. I'm cutting things out, and I know exactly what I want, and I just want to go. Yeah. And now I'm, you know, a few weeks ago we started using an editor to try to help with the videos, and it was just like painful at the beginning because I was like, I just want to do this myself. It's actually taking longer trying to teach this person. Yeah. And now I record a video, I upload it, and I go out to dinner with my girlfriend and I get home and there's a video there waiting for me, and I'm like, okay, I was thinking about this wrong. So I think there's a lot of value there. Yeah. I was going to say something about something you said. Right. So Mirage, the documentation site, is a Jekyll app, which is another Ruby build thing. And all of these, Jekyll and Middleman, the reason they're all around, which I understand would be confusing for a lot of folks who are getting into Ember recently. It's like, why are you using a Ruby-based build tool for your documentation of your Ember and JavaScript app? Right. And, you know, Rails was super popular. A lot of people got into JavaScript from like their Rails background. Yeah. And JavaScript was becoming popular backbone than Ember and Angular and all this stuff. And also GitHub Pages automatically knows how to build and deploy a Jekyll app. So it was like created by, I think, the founder of GitHub.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so, you know, if you go to Ember CLI Mirage and you choose GitHub Pages branch, you'll see the source code of a Jekyll app. And you can just change one of the files there, and then GitHub's going to automatically build it, like run Jekyll build, and put the dist up in the right spot so the website updates. Right. And so that's so cool, and it makes it easy, but it's like now you're dealing with not an Ember app, you're dealing with a Jekyll app. Yeah. But now, with some of the stuff you're talking about, I've been working on add-on docs, but we all have Ember to the point where it actually makes sense to use Ember for like a static app, just for a documentation site, because we have things like Prember and Fastboot. We can do static builds of it. Right. And it enables us to do so much more, because now, I could have an example of Ember Style Mirage running on the docs site. Exactly. Or you could show the components in Ember Styleguide in the docs site. And so I love that we've landed on a pattern where we can use Ember to document Ember apps and add-ons.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
It's so great. It's just amazing. Like, this stuff is super exciting to me, because there's no reason every add-on shouldn't have a great documentation site and have awesome interactive demos, and all that stuff can be super easy with our infrastructure. Like, it's just, there's so much here. There's like really years of like awesome chills. Work. I'm so excited. It's some of my favorite work. It feels like it's like leverage work where you're building for your peers. Like, application development is cool, but building something that lets 10 people build apps or add-ons,
right.
It's
it really is.
It's like moving it from the 10th floor to the 20th floor.
Yeah.
Ryan just did an add-on this last week on Fastboot testing, and it's one helper. It's the visit helper that works in Fastboot. So you can write a test, and you can say visit / /posts, and render it in Fastboot, and then assert what it looks like. And it's just the same as acceptance testing in Ember right now on the client, but it's going to actually test your Fastboot app.
Oh, I like that.
So he made that, and the add-on is pretty, it's complicated, but the API, the public API that it exposes is just one helper, the visit helper.
Interesting.
And, he was just remarking that normally he would just put this out there and that would be it. It'd be done. Yeah. But he was trying out add-on docs. And so now we've got the documentation up for it, and it has examples, and it's versioned, and all this stuff. Again, you're just starting off on a higher floor.
Yeah.
And
I really think this is going to be, it's so helpful, because you're not, we're saying we don't want to reinvent the wheel. That's one of the values of Ember. Yes. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yes. But when you don't take the time to document what you've done, somebody else is going to come along and think it's a brand new idea and get super excited about it. And then you're like, oh, but we already have that. Right. And you'll feel bad, and then they'll be sad. And I don't want to make anybody sad. That sucks. So by creating a way to make developers' lives easier, to make documentation easier to do, somebody can more easily search and say, oh, it's there. Ember Observer is a great example of this. Like, what Katie and Phil have done is amazing there.
Amazing.
And that they still maintain it is even more amazing to me. But I can go and look anywhere and say, does this already exist?
Yep.
And that's kind of the 99% thing I was talking about. Like, all the things I thought Ember could have or should have.
Right.
And I don't know. I came to Ember for such a time as this. To borrow the phrase, right?
Right.
Because all of my experience from the first time I read responsive design, from the first time I read the CSS spec, from all those things are just all coming together now. And Ember is so well done underneath the hood that I'm just going, oh, you guys, all this stuff we've been waiting for all this time.
You're driving 100 miles an hour, and all you need to do is one last turn. Everyone's going to see the result of all the hard work that's gone into it.
And it's really exciting, because it's all the stuff we wish was in the web by default for a really long time.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
So I just feel more empowered than ever. I learned CSS in the time of CSS Zen Garden, that first website that taught us you could have the same markup and change the styles underneath, and look at that,
Right.
And being able to do that in Ember with Ember Theme Changer. And now having figured it out how to do it in engines with an app that has engines. And again, this is
some of your work.
My work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Work.
Yeah.
That you're going to be able to apply to some of the open source stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. And it's it's already helping. We're already able to share some of the work. And that has just been exciting. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get really excited, like I said, when I know the answer. I'm like, oh my God, I can help you. I'm so happy right now.
Well, I think that's, and that's cool because, again, you being able to have an impact with your knowledge, but also working to make it easier for other people to contribute to Ember. It's awesome to feel like you have a solution for a real problem that people are facing, and also have the opportunity to actually implement it and do it and drive it forward. And like Ember has those opportunities for people.
They really do. And I just, I don't know, I'm so excited to like, whatever we think is a problem spot, like, oh, it sucks that this is the way it is.
Forms.
Or, forms. We're coming for you, forms. We're going to solve you. Or, hey, we could make this easier for our friends. And then we can all build easier things. Like, why don't we... I was promised that we'd like be wearing spacesuits, flying cars. Remember they used to tell us that the future we'll be wearing these silvery kind of jumpsuit things? Like that was supposed to be now.
Right. We're there. Except we're not.
I'm still building forums, y'all.
Right.
So we need to take care of this.
We need to take care of it. I totally agree. I mean, and I think about, I feel this way with video games. You turn on a video game that was made in the last year and you're just like, your jaw is dropping.
Yes.
And you're like, I can't even get 2 freaking boxes on this website to be where I want them to be. What's going on there?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like, it's funny because in Ember, you know, somehow we're known for being almost too high level. And it's like, I want to get down in the weeds, like stop with the abstractions. Like we need lower level, but then it's like, but wait, video game developers are building on way higher level abstractions. They're not writing code. They're using visual tools to simulate physics and create models of things. So there's this interesting thing where high level abstractions can really be bad if they're the wrong abstractions.
Yeah.
And people are going to want the lower level stuff if the high level stuff is not allowing them to get their job done.
They'll go find it.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should stop trying to find those high level abstractions, because we need those if we're ever going to be able to do the other stuff that we want to do and stop writing forums.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep saying that.
Yeah. It's true though.
Yeah.
I mean, we have such a nice complexity or a nice well-rounded group of folks in the Ember community.
Yeah.
And that's been really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
I love that I could say, oh, it would make better sense to me as a developer if you formatted it this way. And then like the things that the Ember CLI team is doing just like completely blow my mind on a constant basis. Mm-hmm. Like the updater stuff that's coming out.
Oh, that stuff is nuts. It's so cool though.
You just took so much pain out of my life.
I know.
I just want to hug you or send you cookies or something because this is amazing.
Yeah.
Not only do I get to have the latest, it doesn't hurt. Like I'm not
physically
working all weekend, you know?
Yep. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's, I don't know, there's just this great complexity and well-roundedness, and it genuinely is inclusive because we don't just have heavy-duty JavaScript engineers. We also have UI people.
Right.
We also have project managers.
Right.
There's room for everybody.
You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Testers. I mean, the stuff, Tobias's talk, I thought, on testing, Jamie White's talk at EmberConf, say more, like,
really cool.
better accessibility through your tests. The way you oh my gosh.
Yes.
So, you know, there's just so much room for the imagination and just perfecting it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, again, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, just feeling like, I don't have to be in a room and feel like I'm one of another cog, in the sense that like I have to fit a mold. There's opportunities for every kind of person in Ember to contribute to make all of our lives better.
Right.
You know,
right.
And make things easier, you know?
Yeah.
Which is what we're all going to be talking about at the conference coming up that you're organizing.
Right. EmberCamp Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I'm not so much organizing as I got a good committee. Okay. And we spread the work around, so it's not too much for any one of us to do.
Spearheading, and you spearheaded it.
Yeah, spearheading. That's probably, yeah. I incited the riot that might have started it, maybe. Leia's done such a great job at planning conferences. I got her book, Event Driven, read her book, thought, oh, that's logical. Went to EmberCamp, thought, this is the nicest conference I've ever been to. I love this. And she made it really easy she has empowered us by her hard work to host. We're really just hosting. Most of these decisions have already been made. We're just following templates. We're making a few decisions here. I know, right?
It's easy.
Right? So the focus of EmberCamp Chicago is going to be It's Easy in Ember, and a great lineup of talks about performance, about upgrading your app, we've got a nice little like yin yang thing going on, because we've got one talk that's going to be like a people's history of Ember.
Oh, cool.
And then we have Ember in 2018 talk.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme recently. What does modern Ember look like? I don't think we can get enough of that.
Yeah. I think that's going to excite a lot of people who've been waiting for it.
Yes.
I always hear complaints about handlebars, and I just think, what are you talking about? I love handlebars. They're so useful.
Handlebars is the best thing about Ember. I'm convinced. Honestly, I would be confident defending that.
I was tired of getting the FizzBuzz question in JavaScript interviews. So I wrote a FizzBuzz implementation entirely with CSS and handlebars.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's totally on my GitHub repo. You can
that's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to link to that.
Yeah.
How fun.
Because I was just tired of getting
That's pretty
asked
awesome.
Like, I don't want to do this again, though.
Yeah.
I don't remember it ever. I just go look it up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just syntax.
Yeah.
I know what the idea is.
Right.
So I'm still working on that part, and I'm still leveling up that part. And there's a lot of great help in the Ember community when I'm ready to level it up. And that's the thing I love, is that I found support every step of the way for anything I'm ready to level up on. Anywhere where I want to dig deeper. So my career has been kind of one of wherever the most need is, that's what the work I'll do. And I have this incredible like breadth of knowledge because of that. And in certain areas, because I've been doing it so long, you just end up with a natural depth. And I feel like the next place of growth is going to kind of be digging more into JavaScript itself and figuring out, how do we really deliver what every kind of user needs in an Ember component?
Makes sense. I mean, you're going to be focused on...
Exactly.
If you have the vision, you're going to need to implement and help people implement the internals. Right. There's a connection there. Right. So, yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to kind of wrap up our conversation. Yeah. EmberCamp is... September 21st. In Chicago. In Chicago. We've got some great swag planned too. Oh, so I'm super excited. Yeah. If folks want to kind of follow you online, stay up to date with all this cool stuff you've been talking about, what's the best way for them to do that? Melanie Sumner on Twitter is probably the best way. Or just, if you say the word accessibility in Slack, I get summoned. A magical Melanie appears. Because you can set keyword summons, and accessibility or accessible will summon me. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Mel, thanks so much for coming on. Yeah, it was an awesome chat, and I can't wait to see you again in Chicago. It's going to be a fun time. Great. All right. Thanks, everyone.